It is time for the start of a week-long series here on the programme. All this week we are featuring From Me to You. They are a fantastic local charity who organise anonymous letters to be sent to people with cancer. These letters are full of joy and positivity and are handed out by care centres like the Sussex Cancer Centre in Brighton to those who are going through cancer treatment. Writers of these letters are encouraged to fill them with information about their own lives, from the mundane to the spectacular. And all this week we will be meeting some of the amazing writers who regularly write for the charity. In a moment, in fact, we're going to be speaking to Susan Douglas, and Susan's story is brilliant because Susan actually doesn't even live here anymore. She lives in Australia, but she grew up in Sussex, and she's now written, I think it's nearly over 60 letters from Australia, just outside Brisbane, to people here in Brighton. Anyway, we'll hear from Susan shortly, but first, let's hear what these letters are like. Let's get an example. Lexi from Hertfordshire wrote several letters to Mark, who had cancer of the blood.
I had my second bone marrow transplant. You feel dreadful. Very, very low. And you're isolated from people. So you're very vulnerable to infection. It was really at this stage, I think I'd been in hospital for it was this room for just over 3 weeks when the letter arrived. Dear Mark, I understand you're having to be cooped up at the moment while you build up your strength and immune system. I thought I should send you a tea bag of immunity. It might help a little. And when you read it, it will be like we're having a cup of tea together.
When you're stuck in hospital, and with all your treatment, it must be very tiring. And I'm sure you long to be back home. There's nothing quite like your own bed. Now I seem to be filling this letter with cliches and small talk. Sorry about that. This is my 5th letter, and mostly I've given book recommendations, but I know when I'm low or unwell, I don't want to concentrate on reading. Perhaps this time I could recommend some films or TV shows for a change. Do you even have a TV in hospital? I know I'd hate to be away from my TV. I'll sign off now and write again soon. Stay strong, Lexi. I know that Mark went through some pretty serious treatment. I know when I first started writing to him, he was in isolation, which is why Alison and Brian at From Me to You suggested he should get a letter. Just reaching out to somebody in a completely unconnected way. They don't know anything about me, and I don't know anything about them. It gives me a great freedom in what I write.
It's such a simple idea, isn't it? But so effective, as we heard there. Of course, that piece of audio voiced by actors, but telling the true story of Lexi from Hertfordshire, who has written several letters to Mark. Earlier this morning, I spoke to Susan Douglas. She's been writing letters for, I think since the end of last year now, but she's written like 60-odd letters already. And I asked her why and how she got involved.
My daughter listens to podcasts in Australia, and she listened to a podcast on the Illusionist site, and she said, Mum, you need to listen to this, you write letters. So I listened to it, and I thought that's a fabulous idea, and I thought I'll find somewhere in Brisbane or somewhere locally to do that. Then I read some more and found out the letters came to Brighton. And I was born in Sussex, so I thought I'm meant to write these to Brighton.
That's weird, isn't it? Sort of talk about serendipity. That's really quite odd. So you lived in Sussex, now you live in Australia,
yes.
And just by chance, your daughter happened to hear about this on a podcast.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
How many letters do you reckon you've written so far?
I started about late November, and I've written about 65, I think.
Gosh. To 65 different people, or don't you know who ends up with them?
I don't know.
Would you like to know?
No, it's okay. I've thought about it. Writing a letter to somebody is a gift. So that's it. That's a gift. And Alison, who runs this, I do get emails saying thank you for your last batch of letters, and that's probably all I need.
What do you write about?
Well, I'm careful because I don't know the level of illness of the people,
Yeah.
so a little bit. And I say I know where you are because I know Brighton. And I write about where I am. I'm usually sitting on my front veranda at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning with the sun pouring in. So I tell them a bit about where I live.
Is there ever a time where you sit down and you just go blank and think, I actually don't know what to write? Because I think for some people, particularly those who have friends or family with cancer, sometimes it's that kind of, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't really know what to say. I want to be helpful, but I don't know where to begin.
Yes, it is a challenge, and I hope that it's always a different person that gets my letter, because it's a bit repetitive sometimes. But no, I love writing letters, and what you said at the beginning, that you haven't received what I call a proper letter for a long time, I know the joy for me. I collect my letters from a funny old bin at the end of the track, which is 1 kilometre from the house, and when I put my hand in there and pull out a proper letter, I know the joy for me. So I hope that's the same joy for other people to receive a letter.
I'm sure. Fascinated by you sat on this veranda with the sun pouring in, and slightly envious. So just talk us through what your life is like in Brisbane.
Well, I'm not in Brisbane.
Oh.
I'm actually a little bit east of Toowoomba. So I'm a little bit down the Darling Downs, and from when I sit on my veranda and look east, I look way down the Lockyer Valley towards Brisbane. I can probably see for 50 or 60 kilometres.
And what's it called? The Darling Downs?
Yes.
What a gorgeous name. I live in the Darling Downs, darling.
So it's beautiful country. It's beautiful, beautiful country. Yes. My husband sleeps in. I'm on the veranda with my dog. We've been for a walk. We come back. We've got the pot of tea. And I write probably one letter, just one each day. And yeah.
How personal do you get in the letters? How much of yourself do you share?
Where I am and our climate. And I sometimes wonder with people, I say, I hope you can see out of a window. And I've just been past the centre with Kate, so I just know a bit more now, because I think...
The Sussex Cancer Centre, this is, yeah.
Yes. I thought, I hope you can see out of a window. Because I really have a belief that seeing or being outside is good for health. So I think, I hope you can see out. Yeah.
Would you ever like to meet any of the recipients? I mean, you said you don't really mind about who has them or whatever, or knowing who it's going to, but would you ever like to meet somebody?
I'd like to know whether my letters are on track with being useful to people. I tell them about my dog, and I now, with help from various people, am able to send mine on cards which have a photo that I have taken, which will be of around my area printed on the front. So I feel it gives a little idea of the countryside. Yeah.
So how come we lost you then from Sussex? What took you over to Australia?
Probably my husband's desire to travel more than mine.
Right.
Yes. So yes, we travelled. We actually drove through Europe and Asia to Australia 50 years ago.
Gosh, that's a long old drive.
It was a long drive. Yes.
How long did that take?
4 months, I think. Yeah. So and then we were in Western Australia and then over to Brisbane, and there's opportunities there that are different to here. And, yeah.
Do you ever miss Sussex?
Oh yes. I was only thinking about it, that Sussex weather and the green. When we landed at Birmingham, I thought, it's green. It's gentle. Our climate is harsh a lot of the time. Harsh, dry, hot.
I guess this letter writing, though, is actually for you a bit of a link to home.
It is. And I had just recently retired and was working out what I wanted to do with my time, where I would volunteer, what I would do. So the letter writing, because I'm a letter writer, and we're rare, aren't we?
You are, you're a dying breed. Not many of you left.
No, but my grandchildren here, who are here in England, I sometimes get a letter from my granddaughter.
Oh, lovely. And what does that mean to you?
It's so special. And I think for letters, I don't know about the people that receive them here, but for me, that is something special. So you take it from the mailbox and you drive home and you make a cup of tea and you sit and then you open it.
And savour it.
You savour it, exactly that word.
Yeah.
Yes, I get cards from my sister and my mother-in-law writes, and they can lift your day. A letter.
I love that. And it just makes you want to grab paper and pen, doesn't it, and start writing to people. If you would like to donate a letter to this fabulous charity, you can find out more by taking a look at their website, from me to you letters.co.uk. And tomorrow we will hear another of those letters and chat to somebody else who has been helped by